Okay, so after graphing linear equations, now we're going to try and concentrate on writing equations of lines, and namely, if you're given 2 points, for example, -2 and 3, and another point, let's say we got -5 and -2. And we can clearly remember from Algebra 1 days, to find the slope, we take the second y minus the first y. That will give us -2. Subtract 3, and then -5. Subtract a -2. Being careful here, -2 take away 3 would be -5, and -5 subtract a -2. Carefully, we actually get we get -3 here, and then of course a negative divided by negative gives us a positive slope of 5/3. Now, there are several ways to find an equation of a line. One of them would be to use these formulas. For example, this one would be the slope intercept form, and what we need for that would be to use a slope. Of course, we have a slope, and to get one of the points to find where the line crosses the y-axis, or rather the y-intercept. So here we're going to choose, doesn't matter which point we choose. I will choose -2 and 3, so my y value will be 3. My slope is +5/3 times the x value, which is the -2, plus the unknown b. And simplifying that will give us -10/3 equals to 3 plus b. And we have to solve for the b value here. So we're going to add 10/3 to both sides. So it'll be 3/1 plus 10/3 equals b. Now, adding fractions can be a problem for many students still at this point. But if you recall that we need a common denominator to add these two, we just multiply 3 and 3 on both sides, and that will give us 9/3 plus 10/3. And of course, that's b equals 19 divided by 3. Now we could write it in mixed number, but for our purposes, we're just going to write the equation as y equals +5/3 x, and then the y-intercept will be 19/3. Not the prettiest equation to graph, but this, if you're asked for an equation of a line, and this will satisfy your problem here. So trying another problem very similar to that, we could use, let's see, we have given 2 points 0, 4, and then of course another point -1 and -5. First step would be to find the slope. -5 minus 4, again, -5 subtract 4, and here would be -1 subtract 0, would be just -1. That will give us a -9/-1, which is just +9. So our slope is just a 9/1. And then we could use the same formula again, but let's try using something called the point slope formula, because it's called the point slope formula because it requires you to use a point and a slope. So m times x minus x sub 0. Here, your x0 and your y0 would be one of the 2 points that you would choose. I choose 0, 4 because the 0 kind of helps out a little bit. And then, of course, +4 here. So we substitute our values. So y minus 4 is equal to the slope, which is 9, times x, and then of course x will be 0 here. And if you distribute, this would be 9 times x minus 9 times 0, which is 0. And of course you want to solve for y and put it in the slope-intercept form for now. Y will be equal to 9x plus 4. And of course this would satisfy the requirement here. You got a slope, you got the y-intercept, and you could graph it pretty straightforward. Sometimes, however, they ask you to write things in standard form. So let's try one of those. And for that, let's do it right here. Let's see, we're going to get a couple of points. Let's suppose you're given -1 and -3. And the other point would be something like -3, -5. This is a 3 here. And then, of course, your slope, you still have to do the slope. So it's going to be -5 plus 3 would be -2. -3 plus 1 is -2. And that gives us a slope of 1. Positive 1, because there are two negatives. And then we can either use the slope intercept or the point slope formula to get it. So we'll use again the point slope. Y minus y0 equals m times x minus x0. Substituting our values, so slope is 1. X, and we choose either of the 2 points. Doesn't really matter which point you choose, because after all, both points are in the same line because we created it that way. And then if I choose, let's say I choose the -3, -5, so this would be x minus a -3, that would be +3 here. And then over here would be y minus a -5, which becomes a +5. And we distribute, that would give us just x plus 3 equals y plus 5. But now in this case we want to write it in standard form, and standard form looks more something like ax plus by equals some number, and that means that we need the x and the y on the same side of the equal sign and the numbers on the right side. So I will subtract x from both sides, so I'm going to get, let's see, minus x plus, there's a positive there, plus y equals, and then of course I got to subtract 5 from here, subtract 5 from 3, so this cancels out there, and then these cancel out there, and 3 subtract 5 will give us -2. And of course, this looks a little awkward with a negative in the front, so we're going to multiply everything by -1. So if we do that, that will give us a positive x minus the y, and then a negative times a negative will be a +2. So this one looks a little better, and from here we can see that this is a linear equation in standard form. Let's see, we can probably have time for one more. There's always room for more algebra. And let's see, let's try something of the sort, and we'll leave it, and sometimes you can just leave it in the point slope form. So for that I'm going to use 0, -1, and then another point will be -5 and -4. Okay, so I'm using a lot of negatives today. Again, your slope is still required. -4 plus 1 is -3. -5 minus 0 is still -5. A negative divided by a negative, of course, is a positive value, like this. So we'll write m equals 3/5. I always wonder why they use the m for slope. We'll probably investigate it someday. Not today. And then we have, of course, y minus y0 equals m times x minus x0 is our point slope formula, and we substitute our values. It doesn't matter which point you pick. Remember, they're both on the same line. They are collinear from your geometry days. Here we'll pick the -5 and the -4. So y minus a -4, that makes it a +4. And their slope is 3/5 minus 4, yeah, 3/5 times x minus a -5, which makes it a +5. And for purposes of finding an equation of a line, and if they don't specify how they want you to leave it, you leave it in the form that is easiest for you. In this case, we can stop here, and then we have our linear equation in point slope form, because we use a point and we use a slope. And with that, you should get busy with your homework.